Hi everybody. Today I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts on the creative process and take you on a journey with me as I create a piece of art myself. A lot of you have been very supportive of my own efforts, and I'd like to give you a peek into my own process and how I like to go about things. Hi! So, I've got a little Mozart on. Hopefully I won't get nailed for copyright violation. Meanwhile, so a lot of people talk about needing to create a sacred space in which to make art, and I think that that sacred space can be inside of yourself. Sort of what I'm talking about is kind of a womb in which to incubate ideas and nurture and process thoughts and concepts and instincts that you might have, and process them into something tangible and real in the creative world. So another sacred space for me is the blank page. There's something very pure about it, where it can be a mirror. It can reflect back anything at the viewer. I mean, it's your job to put it there, but before I start, it can be a mirror, it can be an abyss, it can be just, you know, it can be fertile soil, and it's waiting for what's in my heart and soul and mind to co-create with this blank page a piece of art. Hey! So, I have no idea what I'm going to paint today. I've got my palette all set up, and normally if you're a skilled and practiced artist, you would choose a palette of colors that coordinate or contrast in a calculated way. You don't want to use every color imaginable normally, because that would just be insane and it clashes and it just becomes a mess. So you would want to choose certain colors, but what I like to do is give myself the option of choosing certain colors. You know, I like to give myself a lot of options, so I can really live in the moment when I'm creating a painting and let those choices inspire me. Now, you don't want to have too many options, because then it becomes overwhelming. Oh yes, share away. It's public too. A lot of times, as frustrating as it can be at times, something that really helps stimulate creativity is a limited set of resources, because that really forces you to use your creativity. Like if I only had 2 colors to work with, or 1 color and the page, I would have to be working within that limited framework to make something, and that really makes the piece rely more heavily on your own creativity. But since I'm an expressionist and I have a lot to express, I like to have a lot of options to choose from in terms of my range of expression, of emotion, and you know, complexity. So I've given myself a lot of options here, and these are acrylic paints, and I'm using a watercolor paper. I've tried the acrylic pads of paper and I don't like them as much, so I use this porous, toothy watercolor paper. And I use a variety of types of acrylic paint from various brands. I use jars of paint from Sargent Art, which are very cheap. I use the basic brand, which is also a student grade, very cheap. I also use very fancy, expensive Winsor Newton professional acrylic paints for certain colors. I use their slightly less expensive line of Winsor Newton Galleria paints. So it's a mixture of, you know, supposed different qualities of paint. And that works very well for me. I found which colors, you know, I like to mix and use. So I use that variety of, you know, and again, it's about variety. It's about diversity and versatility. And another little trick I use is I mix not always exactly the same colors, but basically the same colors in these little jars. I like them because they've got tops, they won't dry out. I can use a large quantity of each, and I've got like half a dozen or more of these jars of paints that I've mixed, pre-mixed. So, and that gives me a set palette for the most part if I'm doing a painting and I don't feel like mixing up a palette like this. So, for me, art and creativity is so much about expression. I've got a lot going on inside my heart and mind and spirit, and the way I process that and work through that and reflect that best and find meaning and connection with other people is by expressing it on the page. So, so basically, I'm going to attempt to do that here.